Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled 21 and a Prisoner in My Parents' Home. I am 21, located in Southern California. My parents' home is in Orange County and I was attending university in Los Angeles County up until recently. Fall 2014 until winter 2017, when I took a leave of absence from school due to personal issues. Once my leave was finalized in January 2018, my parents made it clear to me that they wanted me to return home and live with them. However, I was not keen on this idea, since my parents and I have a somewhat strained relationship due to them not agreeing with a lot of my decisions and generally wanting to control aspects of my life. So I decided to stay put in the city where my university is located and picked up several odd jobs in order to support myself financially, rent, food, other expenses, and I continued to do this through May 2018. Through these 5 months, my parents would contact me occasionally to see how I was doing. If I did not respond within an appropriate time frame in their eyes, which is less than a few hours, they would repeatedly call me 20+ times in a row or even show up outside my apartment unannounced. Finally, they got fed up with my lack of responding and forced me to move back home with them at the end of May. They did so by notifying my landlord that I would no longer be living there, coming to move out my stuff unannounced and taking away my bank card/ID/keys. Originally, when my parents brought me back home, they said that they would leave me to my own devices, so if I wanted to get a job I could do so, or if I wanted to go out and do something with my friends, I could do so. Basically, it would be like they were my landlords, so we were only tied together by a common living space. On the second night I was home, I made plans to go with some friends to a dance class. My parents allowed me to go out and I told them approximately what time I would be back home, between 1 and 2 AM. However, once it hit around 11 PM, my parents started calling and texting me, telling me to come back home because it was too late. I told them that I could not come home since I had left my car at a friend's house because we had carpooled to the dance class together. For the next 3 hours they continued to call and text me, and once I actually got home around 1:30 AM, they took away my car keys and told me I would not be allowed to leave the house again without them. It has been 2 weeks now since I've been home and I've only ever left my house to run errands with my parents. I've applied to multiple jobs near my house since my parents keep pestering me to get one, and I would love to not be at home all the time, but my parents automatically veto any job I am offered: retail, restaurant, tutor, receptionist, office clerk, etc. Therefore, I have resorted to try and make some money by selling stuff online, like some of my clothes and shoes. One of my friends back at the university is aware of everything that is happening and he has offered to let me come stay at his place so that I can get away from my parents and figure stuff out. I have my debit card now and some cash, and I am planning on packing a few bags of necessities. I can get to my friend's place through public transit or by getting a ride with a friend. So here are my legal questions. If my parents report me as missing to the police, what will happen? Can I tell the police the details of my situation so that I can prove that I'm not missing and I left my parents' house on my own accord? What will the police say to my parents after I do this? Number 2, is there a way to prevent my parents from contacting me or showing up at my new place? I'm guessing a restraining order, although I'm not sure if I would have enough evidence for the court to grant me one. If my parents do show up at my new place, how do I get them to leave? Are there any legal consequences for them? Fourth, if I take belongings with me like my cell phone and laptop that my parents purchased for me years ago, could that be considered as stealing from them? 5. After I leave my parents' place, is there any way for me to come back and retrieve the rest of my stuff without having to interact with my parents directly? Number 6. What can I tell my parents in terms of legal facts of what they can do and cannot do? I think by giving them factual information on what they can and cannot do legally, they will be less likely to resort to extreme measures. I'm still open to having a relationship with them in the future, just not right now, because they are literally holding me hostage. Thanks in advance for reading my post and for any advice you may have. I can clarify any questions as well. I tried to make my post as succinct as possible, so I left out some things that I thought were non-essential to the story. And a user in the comments responded and said, I would get ahead of this by going to the police station, wherever you move to, and telling the officers what is happening. Asking for referrals to get legal aid. Basically, you can tell the police you are not missing. Number 2, potentially a restraining order, especially if their behavior in calling you continues. Look up the statutes about telephonic harassment. Number 3, it depends on number 2, but telling them that they are not allowed there, informing them you will call the police, and calling the police on them for trespassing or whatever works. Number 4, cell phones are weird because they can be on contracts, but I think the laptop can be considered a gift. Number 5, try to leave with the essentials. Sometimes the sheriff will help, but it is rare. Otherwise, get a trusted friend or other family member to facilitate it. Don't count on getting anything you leave, don't let that stop you, no personal possessions are worth feeling trapped. And number 6, look up and maybe print out statutes on harassment, stalking, telephonic harassment to start out with. Other things to consider: your parents can cut you off from insurance, financial aid, FAFSA, joint bank accounts, sort of illegal but still, and all that. Be prepared, look into resources for domestic violence and stalking victims. Ask your school for help, lock down social media so you control when you guys communicate. And you know guys, interestingly enough, I have a friend back in Europe that is in a very similar situation. It is a girl and she is 22 years old. And her parents are very controlling and it is really difficult to essentially get freedom. You know, nowadays she lives in a different city than her parents and recently started a new job. However, when she comes home late, her mom harasses her on the phone and asks why she's coming home so late. They are essentially making her feel like a child, and I'm not sure how she can solve this problem without going totally no contact with her parents. I suggested that she has a really long and deep talk about being independent / mature enough to make her own decisions with her parents, but she is kind of afraid of that. If you have any advice or suggestions, please let me know in the comments. Update 21 and no longer a prisoner. I did it, I left. Currently writing this from the backseat of an Uber at 2 AM on my way to my friend's house with 5 bags of personal belongings that I packed in the last hour. My hands are shaking, somewhat out of fear but mostly out of immense relief. I don't have everything figured out, but for now I am free and I have the space to figure things out as they come up. Once I get to my friend's place, I am planning to call both the LA police and OC police non-emergency numbers to report that I am okay, not missing, and inform them that my parents may file a false missing persons report tomorrow morning. First thing tomorrow morning, I am heading straight to the office of my university dean to see what assistance they can offer me, as well as update them on my situation. I anticipate that my parents will also try to contact them. But now that I'm actually out, I have some important decisions to make. My sudden decision to leave tonight was spurred by a conversation I had with my dad after dinner. My mom was upstairs, so she was not present for the conversation. I should preface what I'm about to say with explaining what I meant by physical abuse in my initial post. See, whenever I talk with my dad and my responses are not satisfactory to him, he will beat me. Sometimes it is with a large piece of wooden crown molding, a thin wooden switch, a belt, a golf club, a thick textbook, probably enough examples for now. Pretty much all of my responses don't meet his expectations, so I get beat pretty bad if he's angry. Some photos I have include pictures of my thighs that are covered in welts and broken blood vessels. Days later, the marks turned into hard bruises. Anyways, back to tonight's conversation. For all of today, I basically stayed in my room, reading books and organizing some of my stuff. My parents kept complaining that I would not spend time with them, but I hope it makes sense why I am not particularly keen on doing that. So after dinner, my dad confronts me to ask why I am acting like I'm so depressed. I respond by saying that I don't have much to talk about and I would rather be left alone. This angered him a lot and he began to lecture me about how
Bringing you home was supposed to change you. You cannot see we're just trying to help you.
I did not reply at this point, so he says this verbatim. If you have no will to live, just tell me and I will get the knife, meaning he would assist me in ending my life. That triggered a nerve in me due to my past struggles with depression and my parents not taking my diagnosis seriously, so I replied with, if I wanted to end my life, I don't need your help. And then he got up to go to the kitchen, came back with a knife and just said,
okay then.
At this point I realized that this was serious and I had no doubt that my dad would not hesitate to cause me even more physical harm if I continued to anger him. So I chose to placate him by promising to try harder and be a better daughter, which seemed to satisfy him, and he went upstairs to go to bed. Which brings us to now. Once I confirmed that both my parents were asleep, I began packing everything I could fit in the biggest bags that I owned. Enough clothes to last me for a few weeks, important documents, my passport, my license and a few sentimental items. I called my friend who was able to call me an Uber. While I waited for the car to arrive, I wrote a brief note to my parents to leave on my nightstand. In it, I apologized for doing what I did, told them I recognized that their actions were out of love and concern, but their actions were straight up abuse. I assured them that I would be safe and ended by saying I hoped we could have a healthy relationship someday down the line. And I gotta admit guys, I am really glad that OP got out of this horrible situation. But still, my heart goes out to OP and I hope she is in a better place now, because unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, this was the last update to the story, so I really wish her all the best. If you have watched until here, by the way, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you very much in advance. And the next one is titled, Received a message from the South Yorkshire Police informing me about apparent harassment of a woman from Las Vegas on Reddit. What does this mean and what do I do? Hey, I am using an alt for this. I know the information in this story makes me very easily identifiable, but I know the woman in question follows my main account. Several months ago, I submitted a post to r/subreddit drama about a woman in the US who stalked her professor and made a lengthy series of posts to academic subreddits about it. She later found out about the post and said she was going to try to sue me for libel, which some other users alerted me to. A lot of people who read my post began following her and arguing with her, mostly telling her to get offline and look for professional help. I followed these threats as I wanted to keep an eye on the situation after she claimed she would pursue legal action against me, and I told her under a different account a couple of times to stop, not more than a few times, but after a while I completely stopped commenting altogether and just watched her account without interacting. A couple of months later, she made another post in which people took my side, WRT, the subreddit drama post, and she believed I was continuing to contact her and said she hoped I died. I made one comment in response to that, the first time I had interacted with her in a long time, and then again went back to not contacting her. Today I received a Facebook message from someone claiming to be with the crime support hub for the South Yorkshire Police, which read, Name, we have received an email from a lady in Las Vegas regarding contact you have made with her via the website Reddit. An offense has been recorded on our database for harassment. She has informed us that you've been following her on the website and sending her messages which she considers to be harassment. Do not contact her again. Further contact may be considered as a further course of conduct, and consideration will be given whether it is appropriate to take further action against you under the Harassment Act. Thank you, Sheffield Crime Support Hub, South Yorkshire Police. I found the local police station and they confirmed that the person who contacted me is an officer in that division who is working from home today, so the message is likely real. I responded to the Facebook message, but I haven't gotten a reply. It was after 5 PM, so I imagine the officer is no longer working today. What do I do about this? What does "an offense has been recorded on our database for harassment" mean? Is that a publicly available database, like a criminal record? How do I dispute this? What impact does this have on me? What do I do if she claims I contacted her again, which I have not in a long time and will not in the future? I am really concerned about this. Any information would be appreciated. Edit. Before making this post, I had responded to the Facebook message asking for a contact number as advised by my local department. They responded today with a number which appears to be a real UK number, but I'm not going to call it. As many here have suggested, I have phoned my local station and asked for them to request that the officer send me an email from an official account, which they have said that they have done, and I am currently waiting for that message. And a user in the comments said, any formal warning from the police will never come via a Facebook message, use your common sense. And another person said, ex-police here, the only time I was ever allowed to use a Facebook profile was when I was using a fake one to demonstrate to school kids how easy it is to be scammed by someone on the internet. A police officer would not contact you this way unless all other methods of contacting you had been exhausted and it was a serious matter, like a relative had died. In which case the message would simply be, Dear Mr. Blocks, please contact the South Yorkshire Police on 0114 etc. and quote incident reference XYZ of today's date. They would then ask you some basic questions to make sure you were the right person. In relation to harassment, for something to be harassment, you need to be contacting them directly. Writing stuff about them which they need to seek out and read is not harassment, which is something I explained to people so many times, aka
she wrote on her wall that I'm a stupid woman.
And I say, well, don't look at her profile then. So guys, what is your opinion on this story? Do you think the police is allowed to contact someone via Facebook Messenger? Usually I would say definitely not, but maybe you are in for a little surprise. Update to the Facebook police story. Before making my post, I had called my local station and they confirmed that there was an officer with the Facebook account's name working in the same branch, so I was told to ask them for a contact number. I replied to the Facebook message doing so and then came on here and made my post. This afternoon the officer replied to me on Messenger with a number, but following the advice given on my other post, I called the station again and asked them to request that he send me an email from his pnnpolice.uk account. A few hours later I received an email from the officer's official email account giving the same contact number that was sent via Facebook. The Facebook messages were real, contrary to what everyone here believed. I called the number and spoke with the officer, who was a very nice man, and told me that the screenshots they had been sent boiled down to
online bickering,
and he said it was
one of the weakest cases he had seen,
but they had to contact me because that was procedure, of course. He said that the complaint has been recorded in their database and might show up on an enhanced DBS check, but not to worry because those checks are rare for most jobs, there's nothing of serious note in the report, and I have a very common name, so it is unlikely to even be traced back to me. All in all, I've learned a valuable lesson about protecting my identity online. My only major concern now is that I have a mentally unstable online stalker who feels wronged. I'm taking precautions to protect my online presence now, and fortunately, she lives on the other side of the world from me. And the last one is a little bonus. It is not from Legal Advice, but instead from our own subreddit. It is titled, The Manager Tells Me I Am Unreasonable When I Ask Her to Do the Same Thing She Demands That I Do, posted by user Ancient Eyes. Hello Ripe, this is Tales from the Hotel. Backstory, I worked at this hotel for a couple of years, left because I was moving to a different area. Fast forward a few years and I walk into the hotel. The head of accounting, if you have read Managers Get a Lesson in Management, her name is Vivian, saw me and recognized me. We chatted for a bit and she asked why I was there. I told her I was applying for a job as I had recently moved back to the area and needed a job. She walked me into the HR department and told the head of HR to find this guy a job. I got my old night audit job back, which I did love doing the audit. The cast is me, front desk manager, different one from the previous story. So, on to the story. The manager wanted to do a monthly meeting at 2 PM and demanded all staff attend. The problem was I worked the graveyard shift and did not get off until 7 AM and then I had a 45 to 60 minute drive home. Tried to fall asleep if I was lucky to get to sleep by 8:30 to 9 AM. Then I was supposed to get up at 12:30, get ready and drive another 45 to 60 minutes back for a 1-hour meeting. Then go back home and try to fall back asleep. She insisted that this was not unreasonable of a demand. I looked at her and said, "I will make you a deal if you did a meeting at 2 AM and make everyone show up. I would be at the next meeting." She looks at me and tells me,
That is completely unreasonable.
I just looked at her and said, "That's what you are demanding I do." She still demanded. I told her, "Fine, I will come, but if I fall asleep at the wheel and have a car accident, I was holding the company responsible." I showed her the law she was breaking, stating there was not an 8-hour downtime between shifts as required by the state law. I then continued, "I'm sure I will enjoy the major lawsuit against the company as it will be a slam dunk case." She relented at that point, knowing I had her over the barrel. Must love how the graveyard shift is always screwed over. Employee lunches happened from time to time. The managers would save some food for evening shift, which was all gone by the time graveyard showed up. The manager would say with a grin on her face,
Just come then there, I will have some.
She could not do anything against me as I was protected by the head of accounting. The head of accounting was not the person to ever cross, as she would bring holy hell down on anyone who screwed up stuff or made her life hell, and the manager knew it. Thank you very much for the interesting story, Ancient Eyes, and I'm curious for the other listeners, are you still interested in Tales from the Hotel, Tales from Retail, etc. stories? Please let me know in the comments. And unfortunately guys, we have already reached the end of the video, and once again I would like to remind you, if you want to hear me read more stories, then I suggest to head over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. You will get access to 30+ exclusive videos, but mainly Just No Mother-in-Law. So if you are a fan of Just No Mother-in-Law stories, then Patreon is really worth checking out. Either way, thank you so much for supporting me and for watching the video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.